Welcome to The Explainer. Today we are tackling a huge question, one that sits at the very heart of our legal system. When someone breaks the law, why do we punish them? What are we actually trying to accomplish?
So let's just dive right in with that. Why do we punish crime? Is it about getting revenge? Is it about making sure it doesn't happen again? Or maybe it's something totally different. Well, as you're about to see, the answer is yes. It's kind of all of the above.
You know, you can really boil down every single theory of punishment into one of two buckets. Are we looking backward, focusing on the crime that's already happened, or are we looking forward, trying to shape what happens in the future? That's the fundamental split.
So here's how we're going to break it all down. First, we'll explore that main purpose, that split between past and future. Then we'll dig into four major theories: retribution, deterrence, and the two big ideas of incapacitation and rehabilitation. And finally, we'll see how our modern system just kind of throws them all into a blender.
Okay, let's get right to it. This is really the core of the whole debate. Are we punishing for what someone did, or are we punishing to prevent what they or someone else might do?
So our first up is retribution. This is probably the oldest, most gut-level theory of them all. This is our backward-looking philosophy. It's not concerned with the future at all. It's focused entirely on the past crime.
And that's the key right there. Retribution is not about making society safer. It's about justice. It's about restoring a kind of moral balance to the universe. The thinking goes, a crime creates an imbalance, and punishment is the way you set the scales right again. It all comes down to one simple word: deservingness.
And of course, this is the phrase everyone knows, an eye for an eye. It comes from the ancient principle of Lex Talionis. Now, it sounds like simple revenge, but interestingly, it was also a rule of moderation. You could take an eye for an eye, but no more. But as you can imagine, we've moved on a bit from there.
And this is that modern shift in a nutshell. We don't practice literal eye for an eye justice anymore. Instead, the focus is on this idea of proportionality. The punishment has to fit the crime. A harsh sentence for a terrible crime, a lighter one for a lesser offense. It's the same core idea of balance, just applied in a more abstract way.
All right, now let's flip the script and look forward with our first forward-looking theory: deterrence. Unlike retribution, deterrence couldn't care less about the past. It's all about using punishment to send a message and control the future.
This is a very practical, almost cold-blooded approach. The reason we punish isn't because an offender deserves it, it's because it's useful. The goal is simple: make the consequences of breaking the law so severe, so scary, that other people will think twice before they do the same thing.
And what's really interesting is that deterrence is actually aiming at two different targets at the same time. There's general deterrence, where you make an example out of one person to scare off everybody else. And then there's specific deterrence, which is aimed squarely at the individual offender, hoping their punishment is so unpleasant that they personally will never do it again.
Okay, next up are two more forward-looking theories. And what's fascinating here is that they both have the exact same goal: a safer society, but they try to get there in completely opposite ways.
So on one side, you have the preventive theory, which basically says, let's just physically stop criminals from being able to commit crimes. And on the other side, you have the reformative theory, which says, no, let's try to change the person on the inside so they don't want to commit crimes anymore.
So the logic of prevention, or incapacitation, is, well, brutally simple. If a dangerous person is locked away in a prison cell, they physically cannot harm people out in the world. It's not about teaching a lesson or balancing a scale. It's pure risk management through physical restriction.
Now, the reformative theory takes a totally different track. It's often seen as the most optimistic approach. It looks at a criminal not as a bad person, but as someone who is, in a way, sick, someone who needs treatment. The goal isn't just to punish, but to heal through things like education, therapy, and job training, so they can eventually return to society as a changed person. So we've got all these different competing ideas. Which one does our justice system actually use? Well, the real answer is it uses all of them. It's less of a pure philosophy and more of a justice cocktail. And before we mix that cocktail, let's add just one more little ingredient: the expiatory theory. This is the idea that the offender needs to atone, to make up for what they did. And you see this all the time in modern justice. When a court orders an offender to pay restitution to their victim, that's this theory in action, making amends for the harm caused.
And this is the main takeaway for how our system works today. We rarely, if ever, rely on just one single idea. Instead, we've created this synthesis, this blend of different goals. It's a practical and sometimes messy compromise.
Think about it this way.
A single offender can experience all these theories at once. The prison sentence itself is a mix of retribution, it's their just desserts, and prevention, because they're incapacitated. If they get job training inside, that's pure reformation. And if they have to pay restitution when they get out, boom, there's the expiatory theory.
And this just shows how different types of sentences are specifically designed to be these combinations. A life sentence, that's pretty much all retribution and prevention. A sentence that includes parole, that's trying to deter crime, but it's also betting on reformation, that the person is ready to be released safely. And a simple fine, that's a little bit of retribution and a little bit of making amends.
So, at the end of the day, it's all a massive balancing act, and it's a balance that's always shifting. For a while in the 20th century, the focus was really heavily on rehabilitation. Then, the pendulum swung back hard toward retribution and incapacitation with tough-on-crime policies. Finding that perfect balance is the never-ending challenge.
And that really brings us to the final question, one for you to think about. In this complicated cocktail of justice, which ingredient do you think should be the most important? Should our top priority be making sure criminals get what they deserve? Or should it be preventing future crimes, no matter what it takes? The answer we choose says a whole lot about what kind of society we really want to build.